Hi, Javelinos. I'm Rebecca Heller. I am talking today about Chapter 8, Transformational Leadership. So I pulled these two quotes from the top of the article. Education is a process that changes and transforms people. Education is one of the few fields where transformational leadership is practiced on every level, nearly every minute. So these two just made me think like how inherent transformation is in education, and particularly transformational leaders, those teachers that we remember from our youth, or even more recently, who really affected us and changed us and helped us grow. So transformational leadership emphasizes intrinsic motivation of the leader, right? It's in the ways that it's in our heart. We're doing it for ourselves, for the good of others and the good of ourselves. Follower development, trying to develop others in terms of it focuses on emotions, values, ethics, standards, and long-term goals. It's really attentive to the needs and motives of follower and helping followers reach their full potential. Change agents, these transformational leaders are change agents who are good role models and can create and articulate a clear vision and empower followers to meet high standards, act in ways that make others want to trust them, and give meaning to organizational life. I should say meaning, not meeting. So these great role models, these people who are like excited about their work and sort of transmit that on to others and bring them along with a real focus on their team and their followers. So these are the 4 factors of transformational leadership by Bernard Bass, 1985. So this idea of idealized influence, these transformational leaders are known for their charisma. This describes leaders who act as strong role models for followers. They're really showing, not do, what do they say? Show, not say, or so talking about how they are the role models, so that the people, when the followers are looking up to them, they are modeling how to act, right? Inspirational motivation describe leaders who communicate high expectations to followers and provide inspirational motivation, including building a sense of team spirit. So really bringing their followers along, inspiring them, sometimes reinforcing them, complimenting them, etc. Intellectual stimulation describes leaders who stimulate followers to be creative and innovative and to challenge their own beliefs and values, as well as those of the leader of the organization. So allowing their own views, allowing for them to learn and grow through, whether that's through professional development or in other ways. Individualized consideration describes leaders who provide a supportive climate. Oops, sorry. Describes leaders who provide supportive climate by listening carefully to the individual needs of the followers and act as coaches and advisors. So these are leaders who are really focusing on the uniqueness and the individuality of each individual that they're working with and what they need, and being a sounding board for them too as advisors and coaches is in the ways that they could or should move forward. So one of the quotes from the chapter that I found interesting was this Mason, Griffin, and Parker quote that said they found that transformational leadership can result in positive psychological gains for both leader and follower. And so this idea of positive psychological gains like kind of sparked my curiosity, because my pop and my innovation are on student well-being, right? And so this positive psychological gain, I was like, what does that mean? So I went to the source article, which is called Transformational Leadership Development, Connecting Psychological and Behavioral Change. And there was a bunch of different parts to the article, but one was this research question was the change in leaders' positive affect from pre-training to post-training will predict the change in the leader's transformational leadership from pre to post-training. So this idea that when we are happy and healthy and well, when we're in positive affect, that we will be better transformational leaders, basically. And so, according to this theory, experiencing positive emotions broadens people's thought action repertoires and enlarges their cognitive focus, stimulating play, exploration, and creativity, and encouraging people to engage in a wider range of thoughts and behaviors. So, this idea that when we're in this positive affect and in positive emotions, we are better able to learn and grow and change. And that's what we want for our students, right? So, again, back to my own thinking, it's like when students are healthy and well, right? When they're in a positive place, they're better learners. They're better. We can, we have so much more opportunity to teach them. The level of positive affect experienced by participants in transformational leadership training program was related to the quality of change initiative they implemented during the program. So again, more positive they were, the better transformational leaders they were. Also, they talked about how it found that change in positive affect was most reliably associated with change in behavior. So if you could change the positive affect, it could change the behavior. And then what was exciting to me is because intentional change theory, Boyatz's intentional change theory, is one of the theories that I'm using for one of the change theories I'm using as part of my POP and innovation. So what they were saying here is it provides further explanation for the role of positive affect, promoting change. According to this theory, positive emotions not only support cognition, exploration, and relationship building, they activate our ideal self, our conception of what we most aspire to be and to become. Once the ideal self is activated, it monitors and guides behavior and decisions to ensure that they are consistent with our aspirations and values. So intentional change theory is this idea that we have an idealized self, or we can think about, what is it that we want our idealized self to be, right? For if you're thinking about it in terms of mindfulness, I want to be more calm, I want to be more well, I want to be happier, I want to, and then giving them tools to work through that change. And again, in my case, it's mindfulness, but that positive, that this ideal self, again, when we're in positive affect, we can really move towards that idealized self. The psychological changes that leaders experience over the period of the training are associated with the amount of improvement or decline that the leaders experience in their transformational leadership behavior, basically saying more positive affect you have, sort of the better transformational leadership, the less positive affect you have, sort of the worse it went for you. So then there were two case studies, elementary school. The first one is about this elementary school that's been designated as a magnet for writing. And basically all the teachers who are there are invited to stay, but if they want to go, they can go. They all decide to stay, but then they find out that many are resistant to this new writing program. They have this great principal, Joan. She was a classroom teacher and a reading specialist before becoming a principal. She's hands-on. She comes early and stays late and works weekends. I have some thoughts about that. I think Joan's on the road to burnout, but she comes across as great in the article. She has a strong rapport with staff and supports teachers' strengths. She encourages professional development, team teaching, and trying new programs. She expects high standards to be met. Kate is the curriculum coordinator. She's the other character in this case study. She trains teachers to use new curriculum, writes grants, and plans programming. She has trouble with a particular teacher, and she asks Joan for support, and Joan offers some good advice. So I'm just going to answer a couple of these questions. I didn't even put them all on here, but how is this an example of transformational leadership? And Joan is definitely the epitome of a transformational leader. She's rarely found in her office. She's in the classrooms talking and working with students. When we break it down in question 2 to idealized influence, Joan is charismatic. We can assume she's charismatic. It doesn't say she's charismatic, but it says she has a really good rapport with each staff member. She's out and about. She reinforces behavior by giving recognition to staff members for small victories. So this reminded me, there were a couple of things that kept reminding me of the Heath and Heath book Switch. And this was one of them. So she's reinforcing behavior. In terms of inspirational motivation, she works hard, 6 to 6 on Saturdays. She monitors lunch. She sets high standards for her staff and members, and she'll have conversations with them, but she also, is like, here's what we're going for. And she clearly lays out the plan. So this also reminded me of Switch and this idea of shaping the path. In terms of intellectual stimulation, she recommends professional development programs and techniques for her her staff members. She's very much into this individual considerations. She supports individual teachers. She's attentive to their needs. Recommends these, PD programs. Allows them to team teach or teach as individuals, and supports their opinions. So she is definitely a transformational leader in the many ways. Kate, it was a little hard to tell. It seems like Kate is definitely motivating those around her to meet the standards of the writing program that they're utilizing. It didn't really talk that much about her, so but from what we could read, it didn't really sound like she was a transformational leader in the same way that Joan is. And then question 6, how did Joan's trust in her team contribute to the success of the program? It talked about how, she really lets everyone have their individualized ways of doing things, and she supports that. And then also with Kate, she really gives Kate ownership over the curriculum development and teaching the staff, so faculty and staff. The next case is about President Steller. Dr. Steller is president of a large public university. She's very charismatic and is popular with people throughout the university. She raised funds to renovate campus and establish new academic programs. She's very popular with students and trustees. We'll talk in a minute that she's not so popular with faculty and staff. She does have one hiccup with the trustees, but then it sounds like she moved forward with something without asking permission, and they were like, eh. And so now she always does and collaborates with them before she moves forward. So now they're big fans of hers and gave her a decade of tenure. So everyone loves her except the faculty and staff, who are unclear on her vision and become more disgruntled when they didn't receive raises during difficult economic conditions. And it was during this time that she got the tenure, and so they're assuming that she, is earning quite a bit more to keep her around for that. So is she a transformational leader? I would say no. President Steller has the one piece. She has this, so in question 2, the idealized influence. She is described as charismatic. She's supposed to be great with one-on-one. She comes from a background of fundraising and creating relationships with influential stakeholders. Hence, her relationship with the trustees is really strong. She does some really great things for the school. It actually sounds she's improved the school. She added a nursing and engineering program. It sounds like she's done a lot for the school, but she's missing those key constituent of the faculty and staff. And they are, they're the ones who are going to bring her vision forward. This reminds me a lot of some of the educational, the schools that I've been at, where, because I'm in independent schools, they're often looking for the dollars from the students who are coming in, the families that are coming in, raising money, etc. But when they let down faculty and staff, things crumble, and I've seen that firsthand in some of my school sites. So yeah, So this last question, 6, could Dr. Steller be described as a pseudo-transformational leader? So I had to look up pseudo-transformational leader, but this, I think, describes her very well. So a pseudo-transformational leadership is defined by self-serving yet highly inspirational leadership behaviors with little caring for one's subordinates. So in many ways, she's doing a great job. But if she doesn't carry those faculty and staff along and loses some of them, or, the programs will suffer. So how does this relate to my POP and innovation? So my POP is the rising rates of anxiety and depression among students at high achieving schools. And I'm thinking about a mindfulness intervention for the students. My hope is that it raises the level of well-being of all students, and then seeing what that does to anxiety and depression. There's a lot of studies that say that mindfulness really helps with anxiety and depression. So I'm curious to see how that will look with our students. Um, so I'm thinking of delivering it first, and then as part of my cycle one, and then eventually teaching faculty to teach it in our advisory program. So some faculty, mostly interested faculty, I would say. Um, so in terms of idealized influence for transformational leadership, that the facilitator serves as a role model. So I'm thinking of the whether it's me or whether it's one of the faculty members delivering it to the student, how are they the transformational leader to the student? So the facilitator serves as a role model for students, embodying calm and peaceful attitude. So when that student walks in the room, right away, you're in that calm atmosphere. And so this could even be as we're training the teachers as well, like myself in that state, teaching them, or, but really here I was thinking about delivering it to the students. So inspirational motivation, motivating students by creating intentionality around the practice, highlighting bright spots and small wins. Overall, these small wins might be like overall well-being or longer concentration. So, sometimes we'll do something in one of my classes, a mindfulness practice in my yoga class, for example, and people, I'll be like, how did you feel after that? And they'll say, oh, I feel really calm. So like, building on those pieces. Um, and then also that Boyatz's intentional change theory. So thinking about that, so setting the intention towards that idealized self, or just the place that they want to be. Like if they want to, I'm kind of jumping to an assumption that they want to be in a calmer, more well place, but hopefully they do. Intellectual stimulation, so giving context and history to the practice. Mindfulness has a lot of rich tradition in Eastern cultures and many other religions as well, but so giving them some context and information about that to invite deeper understanding. And then also presenting evidence-based research. There is a lot of research out there about mindfulness improving well-being, improving anxiety and depression. So being able to share that for the students who are like, this feels a little hippy-dippy to me. Individualized consideration, my little bar is right in the way. So figuring out the needs of each student, allowing students to enter at their own level or even not participate if that's the right choice for them. So that's a sort of a similar philosophy I have to yoga. Like, you can come in and you can just be quiet and you can breathe and you can follow the lesson or not. Or if you want to go deeper, there's, many, many ways to go deeper. Or if you just want to be quiet, it's not for you for some reason, the breath work causes anxiety, or that you don't have to do it, you just have to not distract others. And so looking at one of my colleagues, one of my classmates, problem of practice and innovation. I got to look at Bobby Fredericks, who is doing work around powwow leaders and how powwow can support the well-being of the community members. And so the idealized influence would be the powwow leaders serve as role models for the community by embodying the idealized cultural norms for them. The inspirational motivation is that powwow leaders support community well-being through inclusion into activities such as dancing, artwork, spirituality, and oral history. Intellectual stimulation, powwow leaders share traditional cultural knowledge and customs to illustrate how they learn and view the world. So really inviting community members in to learn more. I sort of think about this in a similar way to like the mindfulness or even the yoga that I teach. It's like, you could go really deep if you wanted to. Potentially you could stay a little more surface level, just whatever's comfortable to you. That might also lead to this individualized consideration, supporting the various needs and interests of the community members through the different offerings. So there are different offerings for them to come in, and then just meeting the needs as they come up. And so finally, here are my references. I just was looking up information on the pseudo-transformational leadership. So here's an article by Christie et al., as well as the Heath and Heath book, Switch. I made a couple of references to that. It kept coming up to me in some of the readings we were doing. Definitely feels like that transformational leadership is someone who has learned how to harness like the elephant, the rider, and shape the path, right? That article by Mason, Griffin, and Parker about transformational leadership development, and then the Northouse and Lee book that we're reading. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.